Alright, so today we'll be going through the source code for the Artemis GG web application. To start off, we can take a look at our dependencies in our package.json file. In here we have our dev dependencies, which contains many gulp files. Gulp is our task runner. And it also has our dependencies, which contain a lot of the Express middleware. From here we can look at our bower.json file. Our bower.json file also has dependencies. And to highlight some of the more important dependencies in here, we have jQuery, Angular, Angular UI Router, and Bootstrap. From here on, we can look at our task runner, gulp. So in our gulp file, we have listed the required dependencies for our build, and we have a set list of tasks. So the first task is to minify the styles and copy them onto the dist folder. And then we can look at our scripts, which also has a job of minifying the scripts and pushing them into our dist folder. And from here on, we can copy the lib, we can copy assets, we can copy views, and we have a numerous other number of things to copy into our dist folder. We have a watch task, we have a clean task, which deletes unnecessary files, and we have a bower task, which grabs all our bower dependencies and uses wiredep to automatically fill in our index.ejs file. And from here we can run our gulp build by simply saying gulp in the command line. Okay, so from here we can check out our server-side code. So if you go into source, server, we have all of our server-side code. First thing we should check out is our index.ejs file. This is the main index. This contains all of our bower dependencies and our fonts, our scripts, our style sheets. And over here we have our body. And since we're using states, we only have we only have one index. Everything goes inside the body here, each individual state. And we define that this is the Angular app, Artemis GG, and class as state, and UI view and G-class as state as well. From here we can check out our API. In our API, we require our user model, passport, and our respond library. So the first get method in our API simply returns welcome to the Artemis GG API. The second one is used to find all the users and send them back. The third one is a post to API register, which enables us to register new users. It also handles authentication. Login as well handles authentication. And once you log in, you respond with a cookie with the username and also a cookie with whether they have admin rights or not. And then you redirect back to the original page. And as well as we have the API/logout get method. And this get method clears the username cookie, and it also clears the admin cookie, and it logs out for you, and it goes back to the original page. So from here we can check out our model actually that we imported into this file. If you go into user.js under models, we have requiring mongoose, and we require passport local mongoose. So passport local mongoose enables us to kind of mesh together passport local and mongoose so that we can connect to the MongoDB database seamlessly. And we define a new user schema with username, password, and admin. Admin is defaulted to false. And we have a user.plugin passport local mongoose. So this enables us to handle authentication using our user schema. And we export this. So if we check out our config file, we have all the required middleware, all required right here. So our important ones are Express, obviously, Morgan, Mongoose, body parser, passport, which handles, again, all of our authentication, and a cookie parser. And so if we give a brief overview of this, we do the generic setting of the port, the view engine, Morgan, and we parse the cookies and maintain the sessions here. And we use passport session on top of express session because it basically piggybacks off of express session. And we start configuring our passport right here. So we again require the user model, and we have passport.use new local strategy user.authenticate. So what this does is it creates a new strategy for passport that whenever you call local, it authenticates the user. And from there we can serialize this user, and we can deserialize the user whenever we need. And this returns rec.user. And from there we can, connect to our Mongoose database, MongoDB database, sorry. So if we look in our respond.js, this is just to help us with our API, and you just grab the response data and plug it into docs, and it's just a nice export function that helps us eliminate the need for unnecessary code duplication. So from here we checked out pretty much all of it except routes. Routes is one of the main ones too, and this gets the index page and renders it, and it also requires the API page. And if you look at server.js, we require all of these, and we create our server at the end. So from here we can check out our client. In our client we have assets, JS, Sass, and views. Assets contain all of our static assets. JS contains our controllers, directives, services, and our app.js. Lib contains all of our Bower dependencies. If you check out Bower RC, I have them automatically going to lib. And in our Sass folder, we have all of our style sheets. And in our views folder, we have all of our views. To start off, we can check out app.js. In our app.js, we have the required modules, which are UI router, ng-animate, ng-touch, REST Angular, ng-cookies, and angular.filter. So we can start configuring our app from here. What I use is the state provider. State provider allows for a single page design for our application. So everything is contained in index, and they're just simply states switching. So our primary state is primary, and the URL for that is just /, and it goes to the main controller and generates the primary.html template. So if we check out that template, this contains all of our logic and the bulk of our application. This primary.html is connected to the controller, which is main-controller.js. Main-controller.js imports in $scope and $HTTP. So this main controller contains all of our functions that help us retrieve from the API and import all that data into the HTML. So the fetch function grabs the summoner name, and then it parses that summoner name into an ID, and it parses that ID into the match list, and from the match list we can find out what champions summoners are playing. And since this is a jungle app, we're specifically looking for jungle champions. And we also get the summoner name and their summoner list, but we also get the frequency of lanes they've played. So this shows the percentage of chance of them ganking top, percentage of chance of them ganking bot, and percentage of chance ganking mid. And we push all of these into a scope.lanes array. So if we go back to primary.html, we can see we have scaffolded this out, and it looks quite messy, but fear not, it's a very easy process to go through. So if you look at the first chunk of code we have here, this is simply the input box, and on click this triggers the change function. And the change function fetches all the data required based on whatever we have entered into the input box. And based on if we haven't inputted correct data, the server will just return loading results. However, if we have included a correct summoner name, we will get the last jungle champions played, and from that jungle champions played, it will show, the data for the pictures of the champs they played, and it makes sure that they're unique too, the unique jungle champions. And it will also list out the names of the jungle champions they played. After that, right below it, it has the most likely to gank lanes. And this, again, is based off of the second function inside of our fetch function, the http.get, and the frequency of chances for ganking top, mid, or bot. From here, we also have sections for this and rows. So rows are part of the Bootstrap fluid grid system, and they enable us to scaffold out this application and have it minimize and increase in size based on the viewport of the application. So if you're viewing this on a mobile device, it will look completely different from viewing it on, let's say a 1920 by 1080p desktop monitor. So that's the primary .html, and we're out of the way with the bulk of the application. And we can go and check out the user state. When we go into the user state, we have the user controller again, and we have the user HTML in the views. So the user HTML simply outputs the user and by their username. And in the user controller, we prune each of the users that we get from what we had in our database, and we prune them to get just the data we need.